Hello, everyone. Today is International World Biodiversity Day. One of the main aims of this day is to increase understanding and awareness about biodiversity issues. So, for this podcast, I wanted to shine a spotlight on sharks, who are often misunderstood and unfairly feared. Despite their reputation, sharks are absolutely fascinating and play a crucial role in maintaining the health of our oceans. This topic is also close to my heart because someone I deeply admire is incredibly passionate about sharks. It's not something you hear every day, but our love for these incredible animals helped open my eyes to why sharks are so important and why they deserve more respect and celebration, not fear. So today, we're talking about sharks. But firstly, let's discuss what are sharks. There are more than 500 different species of sharks. Each one has very different characteristics from each other. Some would look like what you would usually picture a shark to be like, others not so much. Despite these differences, they all share certain characteristics. They don't have bones, instead, they have soft skeletons made of cartilage, a texture that is kind of similar to what we have in our ears and noses. They have 5 to 7 gill slits on each side of their body so that they can breathe. They have caudal fin, also called tail fin, that they use for swimming. On their side, behind their gills, you can find their pectoral fins, used for lifting and steering. They also have a dorsal fin that helps them stay upright and stabilized and prevents them from spinning or growing. Another trait that all sharks share is revolver dentition. This means that their teeth falls out throughout their life, but it keeps regrowing. Although many people perceive sharks to be threatening and invincible, the reality is quite different. In fact, shark populations around the world are rapidly declining for many reasons, one of them being human activity. Of the 501 known species of sharks, 74 are near extinction, and the other 210 can't be properly assessed since there isn't enough data. Each year, approximately 100 shark attack bites are reported worldwide, but most of these incidents are minor and people tend to recover quickly. Even though sharks swim in all oceans, shark attacks are actually extremely rare. In fact, you are way more likely to be struck by lightning than to be bitten by a shark. Comparatively, each year 100 million sharks are killed globally, and this is a problem for our ecosystem, and I'm going to explain why next. Now that we know a bit more about what sharks are, let's explore why they matter so much to the health of our oceans. Sharks have a very important role in maintaining the marine ecosystem healthy and balanced. Firstly, they are top of the food chain, and because of this, they help prevent overgrazing. Overgrazing happens when plant eating fish and sea animals feed too heavily on vital underwater habitats like seagrass meadows and coral reefs. But sharks, as top predators, play a key role in keeping their populations in check. By doing that, they help protect these essential habitats, which are not only crucial for marine life, but also important for absorbing carbon from the atmosphere. Seagrass and kelp forests are powerful allies in the fight against climate change. They can absorb up to 35 times more carbon than tropical rainforests. And sharks help in another surprising way too. Since they travel long distances and dive between deep and shallow ocean layers, they help mix nutrient and oxygen rich water from the depths with the nutrient poor surface water. This process boosts oxygen levels and makes surface waters more productive. That's great news for tiny organisms like phytoplankton, which live near the ocean surface. Thanks to the nutrients brought up by sharks' movement, phytoplankton can thrive, and just like plants on land, phytoplankton absorb carbon dioxide and release oxygen, playing a big role in keeping our planet's atmosphere balanced. Sharks also help the ocean by spreading nutrients through their fecal matter. Sharks' fecal matter not only acts like fertilizer for plants and tiny organisms that absorb carbon, but it also contains carbon itself. When it sinks to the ocean floor, that carbon gets stored there for a long time instead of going into the atmosphere. Sharks play a huge role in keeping marine ecosystems thriving. Their value can go unnoticed when misconceptions of them being fear inducing aggressors are spread. The planet and all its populations needs them, and it's very important to reframe their story. Now let's talk a bit why we fear sharks. So, galeophobia is the word to describe the fear of sharks, which is a surprisingly common fear even among people who've never seen a shark in real life. And the big reason for this fear is how sharks are portrayed in the media. Think about the movie Jaws, for example. It gave great white sharks a pretty terrifying reputation. There's even a line in the movie where someone says, "Sharks are like axe murderers. People react to them with their guts. There's something crazy and evil and uncontrollable about them." But in reality, sharks aren't even interested in attacking humans. Great whites, for example, they mostly hunt seals. When a shark does bite a person, it's usually a case of mistaken identity. Still, the media loves to blow these stories out of proportion for shock value. Another reason people fear sharks is simply how they look. Sharp teeth, blank expressions, and those cold black eyes, they don't exactly scream friendly. Add to that their speed and power in the water, a place where we humans already feel out of our element, and it's easy to see why they intimidate us. There's also an evolutionary angle here. Our ancestors survived by being afraid of large predators. Even if the actual danger from sharks is low, our brains still react as if it's high. And finally, fear ramps up when sharks are spotted near beaches. It feels like they're invading our space. Unlike bears or wolves, sharks don't have any cute or relatable features, which makes it hard for people to feel empathy for them. Now let's talk about threats to sharks. Sharks are actually one of the most endangered species on the planet, and there are several reasons why. One big threat is something called bycatch. That's when sharks get accidentally caught in fishing gear meant for other fish. They're not the target, but they still end up trapped and often don't survive. Another major issue is shark finning. This is when fishers catch a shark, cut off its fins, and then throw the rest of the body back into the ocean, usually while the shark is still alive. It's a cruel practice mostly done to supply shark fin soup, which is considered a luxury dish in some countries. Then there's the market for shark souvenirs. Shark jaws and teeth are often sold as trophies, and that demand leads to more sharks being killed. One of the bigger problems is that many countries don't have strong laws to protect sharks, and since sharks often travel across vast distances and cross national borders, protecting them properly means countries need to work together, which isn't always easy. And to make matters worse, sharks grow slowly and don't have many babies. So when the numbers go down, it can take decades for populations to bounce back. Now, let's change the topic for something more hopeful and discuss some conservation projects that are happening here in Greece. So, I decided to talk about today the Pick the Alien project, which is a creative and practical effort to protect marine ecosystems in Greece, and it's led by the Greek environmental group Icea. The idea is to encourage people to eat invasive fish species that don't naturally belong in the region's waters. These invasive species, like lionfish and rabbitfish, have made their way into the Mediterranean through things like shipping and the opening of the Suez Canal. And once they arrive, they spread fast. Since they have few natural predators in their new environment, they outcompete native species, damage ecosystems, and even hurt local fishing and tourism industries. To help tackle the problem, ICEA is promoting the consumption of these invasive fish as a way to control their populations. At the same time, the project raises awareness about the steep decline in native predators, like sharks, whose numbers are dropping due to overfishing. Without those top predators, invasive species can multiply even more quickly. To change eating habits, ICEA has teamed up with more than 70 chefs across Greece to create tasty recipes using these invasive fish. They've also hosted public events where over 7,000 people have had the chance to learn about the issue and taste the solution. The goal is to build a national alliance of fishers, restaurants, and seafood sellers who will support this idea and spread it throughout the country. By choosing to eat invasive fish, people can help protect endangered species like sharks, support local communities, and make a real impact on the future health of the Mediterranean Sea. Even if you live far from the ocean, your everyday choices can still have a big impact on sharks. So, what can you do to help? First, make sure any seafood you eat is sustainably sourced. A great tool for this is a sustainable seafood guide, like the one available on the WWF website. It helps you choose options that don't harm marine ecosystems. Definitely avoid shark fin soup or other shark based products unless it clearly says they come from sustainable sources. And be aware, shark meat is sometimes sold under other names. In the UK, it might be labeled as rock salmon, and in Australia, it's often called flake. Also, watch out for products containing squalene, especially health capsules and cosmetics. If it's sourced from sharks, it likely comes from deep sea species that are slow growing and highly vulnerable to overfishing. Look for plant based alternatives instead. If you see shark teeth being sold, skip them unless they're verified fossils. Buying the real thing could be supporting unsustainable fishing practices. For recreational fishers out there, if you happen to catch a shark, release it safely. And if you catch sharks often, consider getting involved in a shark tagging program. Your participation can actually help scientists track and protect these animals. If you're diving or snorkeling with sharks, choose tour operators that follow ethical, non disruptive wildlife practices. It makes a big difference. And finally, you can always support conservation efforts by donating or volunteering with local fishing groups or marine research centers. Every little bit helps, and your support can go a long way in protecting sharks and the oceans they call home. So that's it for today's podcast on sharks. Thanks for tuning in and celebrating International Biodiversity Day with us. Remember, every small action counts when it comes to protecting our planet's incredible life. Remember to stay curious and keep caring. See you next time.